Welcome here to TalkFCB and welcome back to the channel here today, guys, where we have so much to talk about and so much to be genuinely excited about right here. We're going to be talking, of course, about the big game last night, the win over Athletic Club, and not only the win, but it was about the performance, it was about the fun that we had watching Barça. We're going to be talking about the good, the very good from that game, and also the not so good as well, along with Dani Olmo's situation, and exactly where he will fit into this Hansi Flick team. It is all on the way. I hope you enjoy it. So let's do this. But I want to start, first of all, guys, with some super thanks donations coming in on the channel. And I want to give a big shout out here after this big win to Ben and Henry of Texas there. It was their 13th birthday and they love Barça and this channel. Thank you very much for the support. And I really hope you both enjoyed your day and the win last night. And also one here about Deco. Not at all happy with what Deco has been doing throughout the summer. We have had more La Masia breakout stars than successful signings under his leadership, and we're actually going to be talking about plenty of those breakout La Masia stars today. And I want to start by talking about Hansi Flick, because I would just like to say, before we even talk about the game, the performance, let's just think about what he's done here in these opening two games of the season. Away at Valencia, home at Athletic Club, he has no Araujo, no Frenkie de Jong, no sign of when he'll even be back, no Gavi, of course, been out for a long time, no Ansu, and now no Christensen either. There have been registration issues. Ilkay Gundogan left the club very, very suddenly, and we have not heard a single excuse from Hansi Flick. We have not even heard him talking about any of this. In the media, I have heard literally nothing from him. All that he has done is stay quiet, calm, focused on the work that he is doing. All that he is doing here is focusing on what he can control, the training session, and we see that out there on the field right now. And I believe that he's so confident, that he's so calm in his work and in his squad at Barcelona right now, because from the very second that he arrived here, his first port of call was, well, what can La Masia offer me? What is there in the Barça Youth Academy? And we have seen that now moving into the proper season. We saw it right throughout pre-season. We saw lots of young players getting opportunities. But to see somebody there, for instance, like Marc Bernal getting a genuine chance in a La Liga game, in difficult games as well, 17 years old, and how well did he play there? He was given a standing ovation when he left the field because he was that good. And everybody was wowed with him last night. And it's just really interesting, I feel, to look at Flick's management, understand here the way that he's adapted to the culture at Barcelona, the way that he really is trusting in the younger players and in the squad that he has. And ultimately, he is getting the best out of it. And I do have to say, guys, on Flick as well, I think it's really interesting to see, looking at yesterday's game there, looking at the way the second half went, how the game developed, and especially the ability Flick is showing to be able to impact games there, to be able to make decisions that alter the course of the game. That's what you need sometimes from your coach. You can have all the players, you can have all the talent, but sometimes the coach needs to step in and make that key change. And there was one on the hour mark there. Ferran came off, who we're going to talk about, and Fermin came on, and it changed the trajectory of the game. It changed the system, the structuring of the team, because the roles that we're seeing out there on the field, especially the attacking players, they're getting real freedom in their positioning. They're moving around. They're having the option there to play in different sorts of spaces. And I think especially that element of freedom, we're enjoying that as fans. And I think if we're enjoying it, the players are also enjoying it right now. And that's the kind of game that you saw yesterday. Obviously, we won the game. Obviously, we scored 2 goals. That's great. But regardless of that, I had fun. You know, I enjoyed watching the team, the way they built on that performance, the way they created chance after chance, and against a team here who's usually very defensively solid in Athletic Club. This is not a team here that concedes an abundance of chances, and yet Barça found their way through time and time again with different sorts of attacking moves, and I think that's really exciting here. And when you talk about the system, when you talk especially here about key players who are missing, injury problems, registration issues, what we are seeing is that this Hansi Flick system too might be an easier fit at Barca right now. Because if you do get injuries, if players are missing from your team, I think the flexibility of this team means that somebody else can step in. A player here can arrive into this team and they can adapt to it. And Flick has shown himself to be tactically flexible early on here. He's shown what he can do, and believe me, long may it continue. But I also do want to talk here about some of the big performances from last night's game. Let's indeed talk about Jules Kounde, because I thought for me it was such a composed performance at right back from him. He was so solid in the game. And Nico Williams, of course, who he was up against on that right side, he did not complete a single dribble in the game. Not one. A player as good as Nico is, we know how effective he can be in terms of his dribbling. Not once did he evade Jules Kounde at right back at Barca. And I think it's interesting, actually, because earlier on in the week, of course, we saw Barca make the announcement on the captains at the club. The new 5 captains are Ter Stegen, of course, Ronald Araujo, Frenkie de Jong, Raphinha and Pedri. Those are the 5 chosen captains. But for me, looking at that list there, I think Kounde's a player who should have definitely been considered for one of those captaincy roles. I think he's been such a consistent performer. He's really committed to the club. He's played out of position if required. He's been willing to really work hard for the team. And especially looking at that list there, Araujo and Frenkie de Jong, their contracts are running down. They're not exactly rushing here to sign renewals at the club. So I definitely think Kounde there should have been higher up the pecking order. And I think he's playing really well. He's looking confident. I think he's certainly enjoying playing under Hansi Flick so far. And with so much disruption that we've had in our defence, with so many injuries and difficulties that we've had there, Kounde is an absolute breath of fresh air right now for Hansi Flick. But I would as well, guys, like to talk here about Nico Williams. Obviously, he's not a Barcelona player, but I did think it was interesting last night to see a few things that happened. We saw a very warm embrace indeed when Nico left the field. He actually there greeted Hansi Flick, and with quite a big smile, you know. It was interesting to see the two of them exchanging a few words, and he also stayed on the pitch, you know, well after the game there to actually greet Lamine Yamal's family. That was a really nice thing there, to see the two of them. They actually had words in the game as well as the game was going on. You could see the two of them were really enjoying that competition. But I do wonder, you know, what Nico is thinking right now, coming up against Barca last night, coming to the stadium with all the fans inside there, wondering maybe what could have been. But I think with him, it's still an unknown situation. You know, we still don't know, did he reject Barca? Did he actively not want to come here, not want to be here? Or were there simply too many concerns when it comes there to the financial side, the registration? Because when you look at what has happened with Dani Olmo, can you really blame him for having doubts, you know, wondering whether Barca would be able to do the move? Would he be able to play after leaving, of course, the club that he has such strong connections with? So I think right now, with Nico Williams, there's no hard feelings there. I can understand both sides of it right now. I'm interested to see the kind of season that he has at Athletic Club, and also to see how far they go, along with his brother there, in the Europa League. A player, though, that we definitely do have to discuss, guys, it is Pedri, because wasn't it absolutely fantastic to see him back out there from the very start of the game in a really interesting, really intriguing midfield role that I thought it was. And I think he's one of the players, for me, under Flick, who I have the highest hopes for, because I believe that Pedri here has not been fully utilised now for several seasons. Obviously, he's had lots of injury problems, which has not been helpful to that, but I think when he has played, often there are concerns about the role. You know, is he being held back? Are we really giving him the freedom that he needs? Because I want to see Pedri in full flow every game. I want to see him there in a position that allows him to showcase all of the ability that he has, all of those characteristics. You want him on the ball regularly, you want him picking up things, he can control the game in that sort of way, but you also want him to have freedom to move forward. You want him to be involved in orchestrating those attacking moves, because at his best, we saw last night, he's literally unplayable. You know, you can't touch him, you can't get near him. Pedri is evasive, he is so intelligent on the ball, and it's not only about that. What Pedri is a beautiful player to watch. He is an absolute joy to watch in midfield there. He is such an aesthetically pleasing player, and I just want to see that time and time again. Let's hope that he can stay fit, because when he does, and when he plays like that, he is phenomenal. I think we also, though, guys, need to talk about Raphinha. I think that's only fair right here, because let's not forget this summer, he is one of those players that's had to deal with a lot of rumours coming their way. He's been linked away from the club time and time again. Barca, seemingly another one of those who they would have sold. You know, he's one of the few players that could have brought in a few million for the club, and especially given the way that he ended last season. You know, he was one of our best players. He was one that was actually impressing in the team, and yet he's another that easily could have left this summer. But I think he's got a really good attitude about him, Raphinha. You know, he's had some difficult times here at the club, but he keeps bouncing back and he keeps showing that mentally he is very strong indeed. And I thought Flick's words after the game were really, really interesting there. He said, Raphinha, he's the man to start the pressure. The dynamism that he brings to the rest of the players, that's invaluable to me. He said, I didn't expect him to press this much. I didn't even expect that. He said he covers the entire pitch for the full 90 minutes. He is in really good form. And I think that quote there explains why Raphinha, again, for me, he is such a Hansi Flick player. He is a player here who, down to a T, will suit what Flick wants to bring to a game. Yeah, that dynamism, the fact that he can press high, win the ball back high up the field. He's got such tenacity about the way that he goes about it, such a hard worker. We saw that, of course, during his time at Leeds. He was somebody who played at wing-back at times because he put that much energy and that much effort into games. And I think he's really going to work well here under Flick. And it was a good game from him yesterday. Really impressed all of us. And well done there to Raphinha. But on the flip side of that, guys, we do have to talk about Ferran Torres, who, yeah, he started again, which, to be honest for me, that was even a big surprise there, that Ferran, after the way that he played against Valencia, that he was in the starting lineup again. And honestly, it didn't really get much better for him last night. And that is why, guys, along right now with Dani Olmo coming in, the club are still in the market for another attacking player. They feel as though they still need to bolster those areas because obviously Ansu as well, he's going to be coming back into the team, we think. Flick last night again seemed to allude to the fact that he would be staying, that he is part of his plans here. And I think we need these players. We need strength and depth in the attacking areas because for me, Ferran right now, he is just really struggling. He is not really adding anything of value, certainly from the start of games. You know, he's not a starter here. Flick, I think, wants to use him ideally, we heard before, off the bench. You know, when the game opens up, if you need legs as the game goes on, Ferran's your man you can bring on, but I just don't think he should be starting. He has not shown any of that quality, any of what's required to be a starting player here right now, and I think once we get those other options in, I don't believe he will be. But what about somebody who was not even involved at all last night? Let's talk here about Pablo Torre, because I actually have a super thanks coming in here from Saudi Arabia. Big thank you indeed. They're surprised that Pablo Torre is not getting the minutes that he deserves, despite his significant impact every time he plays. And what's even more surprising is that nobody is talking about him. Well, let's change that right here. Let's talk about Pablo Torre's situation, because yeah, in pre-season, he was very impressive. Every time that he played there in pre-season, he added something to the game. He was certainly a player who could definitely have an impact in a Hansi Flick team, but he has been an unused sub in both of the first league games this season. And you also think about it right now, guys, with Dani Olmo to come into this team in the same sort of role, will Pablo Torre get the minutes that he actually needs at the club right now? Because I think there could still be some final rumours in these days to come in the transfer window about Pablo Torre if he felt he needed more football. And at the age that he's at, and given that he didn't actually play all that much last season at Girona, he needs a season where he's getting football, where we're seeing him regularly, where he's having the opportunity to develop his game. And is that going to be at Barça? So far, at least, those minutes have been tough to come by. And then there is indeed the Dani Olmo situation. And I think this is a big one right now, because can I just say again, guys, not being able to register him in time here for the second game, not even the first game now, we're into match day 2 and he still couldn't play last night. That is really disappointing from the club, especially given that he was included provisionally in the squad list. He accompanied the team on match day. He was waiting around all day with the hope that he'd be registered, and then he has to sit in the stands. He has to sit in the stands and watch his teammates out there playing a game that he should have been involved in. And that, for me, is unacceptable. It's a big signing, 60 million, marquee player. You get him registered. You have a better plan, a better idea, and a better way of handling things than this right there. If you are the Barcelona board, let's just get that clear. But on his registration, we've had Kounde leave. He has now gone back to Man City. That is all done. That is wrapped up. Roque arrived in Real Betis. That paperwork is coming through imminently. Mikhail Faye, that is another one that is so close to being all done. And once that paperwork all does go through, once all of those exits are confirmed fully, that should be enough to register Olmo. Now, I say should right now, because at this point, I don't want to guarantee anything. I don't want to say he definitely will be registered, because at Barca right now, you simply don't know, and especially since we're still not on the one-for-one rule, that means that these savings, we can't actually use them in full. We're only getting part of that saving because we haven't returned to one-for-one. So Olmo right now, he is still waiting, and our next game, of course, is on Tuesday. But once he does eventually get back in, and once he does eventually get the all clear to play in a Barca shirt, I do think it's going to be really interesting. And I think even more so after watching last night's game and looking at the way the team were ticking, the way the team were playing, the system that we saw, I think you can see what Flick is envisaging with Dani Olmo. I think you can see the plan coming together here, because centrally, in that more advanced area, there's a vacancy there. You know, there's an opportunity for somebody to come in, and especially somebody who can have that world-class talent, the ability there to change a game, to tip it one way or another. And you put Dani Olmo in that team that we saw last night, in that central area, that is a special team that we're looking at there. And Flick, I think, has got everything worked out well. He's certainly got an idea about the kind of team that he wants. And I'm just excited to see him now. That's what I want the guy to be registered. You know, let's get him in a Barca shirt. Let's get him out there on the field. Let's see what Flick is cooking, because it looks good. It is looking very, very promising. Hansi Flick, the head chef of Barca. But indeed, guys, please do let me know in the comments down below here what you are feeling after last night's performance and result against Athletic Club. Which players were you impressed by? And what did you think there of the tactical approach from Hansi Flick? We will be talking lots more in these days to come, especially with that midweek game, even despite me still being away. But the uploads will continue, guys. Thank you indeed for your support. I hope you enjoyed the win. But until next time, as always, Visca, El Barça.